no problem. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we do have time to get back. So on page you have our debt
Meeting of the
summary.
St. Joseph County Council, September
It's 3 pages. It's kind of broken up into three different ways to look at this. So the first page here on page 9 is the principal and interest payments. So this is taking you from 2019 to 2030, which gives us basically out of the debt. So if you look on the left-hand side, this is not up there. I'm sorry.
Oh, it isn't?
No,
Okay.
no. This is something different.
May take a short moment of silence for.
So on the left-hand side, it's showing you which funds we're paying the debt out of, and this is summarized, and you'll see more detailed reports as we go on here. But on the left-hand side, you'll see the first 2 sections there talk about what's being paid out of River West and River East. And as I've been explaining to some council members as we sit down and we do our budget, the first thing we factor in are our debt payments. Those are the first thing that get made. Everything else, all the other fancy things that get thrown in there, they're all icing on the cake. We want to make sure we're paying our debts first. So we always manage to, and when we do our projections out, we also include all of the debt to project out for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So the first 2 are going to be paid out of the River East and River West tips. And you can see in 2019, you will see these interest and principal payments factored into these various debts. You're actually able to go back into the detail on every one of these funds and see exactly what we're talking about, exactly which debts are in there. So I realize that this is very summarized. If it would, again, if it helps to do it in a different way, let me know and we will chop it up and make it. So then we get into public works. Obviously, we issue sewers works and water works debt as well as solid waste debt. And solid waste debt is typically just
August 14th, 2018 meeting.
So let me circle back one last time on here. Debt in this context here also includes capital assets. So it's not just our fire stations and our streets, it's also the fire trucks and the solid waste trucks and everything. So all of our debt.
Next on the agenda, first reading. Clerk, please read bill number 6218.
Can I ask one quick question? I hope you didn't do this while all of these are inclusive of interest, correct? Including the original debt.
Yes. No, the original debt is not.
Okay, but the payments per year are inclusive of interest.
Yeah, we wanted to show on this page exactly what taxes are. That's what this
Sorry,
version is
I didn't want to
showing.
break that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So that's what this very first page is showing. And it's also showing you, there's a pie chart there on the left corner that's showing you our debt by fund. So a lot of our TIF, 38% of it is backed by TIF. So it's not in the TIF district, often revenues, and that's what it's
Bill number 6318 is assigned to the
public works,
Planning Committee.
and they're huge projects, right? We're not gonna issue debt for, a little sewer main break. We're gonna issue debt to tear up the streets and put in giant, and I'm not a person who works in public works, but whatever they do with the giant tubes, right? Yeah, so that's what we're gonna issue that for, those so that's where you get the 36%. Those are user fees, so those all are factored into the and then the general plus funds, and just to reiterate what our general plus funds are that we talk about, it's going to the general fund, COIT, edit, and COIT. We consider those general plus funds because a lot of the monies can be used, they're lawful purposes, and they're all tax funds, so property tax or local.
Bill number 6518 is assigned to the
Those are
Planning Committee.
what we're so parks are also included in this but we don't. So that's kind of the overall.
Okay.
Bill number 6618.
Those are really important. Those are the funds that we always come back
That
every year
concludes
and say
first
that
readings for this evening. Next on the
we're
agenda
not spending more
is
taxes.
resolution bill number 54.
That's why we really focus on this general.
A resolution
So
of
that's
the St.
page
Joseph County
9.
Council approving the budget.
Are there any questions, council members, that you have in terms of page 9?
Yeah.
Yes, Council.
So what I'm looking at is 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23. It seems like it's pretty even with it going down, you're around 30 million, right? So what's our cash reserve for rainy day fund?
My name is
Just
Sue
overall
Dittmar,
for-
and I am the trustee from Liberty Township. It is necessary for Liberty Township to
Okay. Your
present
cash reserve?
this
Or
petition to
your
you
reserve
because we
for the
currently
city?
have
I'm
two board
thinking
members
business
who
side.
are also on our fire department.
fund has its own
our
tax
petition, our budget for this year amounts to a $26 increase over last year's budget. We have increased several of the line items. Salaries were increased per the board's recommendation, but we currently have a loan that we are in the process of paying off, and because of the decrease in the interest that we will be paying in 2019, gave us a over $4,000 difference.
See,
So
the
that's
point I'm getting
basically the
to
reason
is
for
if
such a small
there's
increase
a
this year.
giant catastrophe.
I'd be
this
happy to
thing would have
answer
be
any
paid off.
questions
We have a cash reserve.
that you might have
Whether
for me at
it's
this
in
time.
multiple funds, it would be an act of this board to pull them all together, or this council, and pay off whatever.
On bill number 5418.
Right now, the city is sitting, it could probably pay off a lot of this.
Please state your name and address for the
Okay,
record, sir.
all right, thank you.
Any
Tom
other
McCormick.
questions?
3 minutes to
Regarding
address
page
the
9.
Tom McCormick, 66488 Sycamore Road, North Liberty, Liberty Township. I am serving as the current Township Board President, and here on behalf of our board, supporting that we put this budget together and asking for your approval. As our trustee Sue had mentioned, with a couple of us being firefighters on the board, we're unable to vote and approve our board to send it down to state. So that's why we need your assistance to approve this budget so it can be sent to state for approval. So that's what we're asking you here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have like,
Does
or
anyone
maybe
else
Cronos,
speak
just
in
what,
favor of 5418?
what's the going rate?
Steve Dalton, Center and Company, Financial Advisor to the County Council from Maryville, Indiana. At your request, we reviewed the documents submitted by Liberty Township and brought those to your committee meeting 2 weeks ago. We would recommend approval. This is a very immaterial increase. Sadly, they have to come to you for approval because of the quorum requirement in state statute, but it's a very small increase, and they'll have to come to you anytime they have an increase or an additional appropriation. So we may see them a couple times in the next couple of years as well. We'd recommend approval.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of this?
Underwriter, so I don't know if you want to.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak in opposition?
From an interest rate standpoint, how South
Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing on 5418. Do I hear a motion?
On a relative basis, the average cost here
Second.
reflects the fact that
Motion to pass bill number 5418 was made by Councilman
so on a
Nolan,
relative
seconded
basis,
by
you are at a lower rate than
Councilman
comparable
Cahill.
municipalities.
Any further comments from any council member on this?
They've also been in a substantially
Hearing none,
historic
clerk, will you
low
take the roll?
in terms of interest rates.
Yes.
Just for this past 10 years to the last 40 to 50 years.
Yes.
Very low values. So that's reflected in the budget.
Yes.
That's changed, right?
The rates that you have on your current debt will not change.
No, no,
All
right.
your debt's fixed rate.
Yes.
But yeah, they're,
Generally speaking, anything new.
And then we are kind of just bad.
Public hearing on the airport authority solid waste management.
in theory, yeah. Yeah, we have not seen a significant increase in rates up to this point.
Please read bill number 5518.
Yeah, and I do not have a crystal ball to tell you where rates are
No,
going.
yeah,
but
I know you don't.
Yeah.
Until 2020.
Just in theory, that's right.
Thank you. Good evening. Mike Daigle, Executive Director, South Bend International Airport, 4477 Progress Drive, South Bend, Indiana. Good evening. Well, it's been about a year since I was last here talking about the 2018 budget. We're here for the 2019. It's been a tremendous year for us. In our first 12 months of full operation of our international facility for corporate and general aircraft, we had 117 aircraft arrive from an international destination to land in South Bend for the first time ever. That means that those aircraft didn't have to stop someplace else. They didn't spend the night someplace else. They didn't eat meals someplace else. They came to our community and they spent their money in our community. These aircraft came as we would expect. The majority of them came from both Canada and Mexico. But we also had aircraft come nonstop from France, Spain, Italy, Colombia, Brazil, and Japan is the longest nonstop that came to us directly over the poles and landed in South Bend. Pretty exciting time for all of us. Also, in this past June, American Airlines started flying from our community to both Dallas-Fort Worth and Charlotte, North Carolina. The initial indications all look that it's going very, very well. This was the result of 3 years' worth of discussions and negotiations with American Airlines. Our proposed 2019 budget is actually 2.63% less than what we did for 2018. Almost half of our 2019 budget is actually a combination of federal and state dollars that we're going to spend on improvements on the airfield side. Major taxiway project that we've got to go to improve safety and to enhance security. About 90% of those dollars will come from the FAA and 5% will come from the Indiana Office of Aviation. So that amounts to almost $11 million, and the only other addition in that bucket is a new aircraft rescue firefighting truck for our public safety staff. I'd be happy to try to answer any of the questions that you may have for this evening. I know we want to keep it short and sweet.
We'll see that, and I briefly talked about the debt service reserve funds in our last conversation.
Thank you.
Helpful at the end of the bond, you just get money up, then you just pay it, and then you don't have to worry about that last year. So that's, we have to keep that in by ordinance.
Does anyone wish to speak in opposition to the bill?
Yeah, so one thing I want to add, a couple of things as far as the numbers, as relates to the zoo, and I know we're not going to talk about specifics, but first and foremost, those are estimates. But the majority of that makeup is what let's call it reserve fund. When you do your revenue deals, it's pretty much what Jim pointed out.
Good evening. Randy Shebish, Executive Director of Solid Waste Management District with offices at 828 Kerr Street in South Bend. By the information that I sent to you over, you should have our budget proposal. This has already gone through the Budget Review Committee, our Advisory Committee, which is by state law, and our board. You are the final step. I'm happy to report that all three others said okay, but you're the official, so we're here tonight. You can see by what I sent over that we are looking at a $400,000 increase. That comes from two line items, and I will explain, otherwise the budget would have been the same, and I can explain those. Account 36015, which is the HHW line item. That is the money that we spend to our vendors to take away all of the hazardous waste, the electronics, and that we collect in the program. That currently is at $300,000. One of the reasons that we're looking at increasing that is that our contract with our electronics vendor ends just after the first of the year, and word is currently the contract we pay for CRT televisions and monitors. All of the flat screens, monitors, and televisions, and the miscellaneous electronics, everything from old stereos, radios, hair dryers, disco ball. We've got disco balls. We do not pay for. But the word is that that may well change in any bids that are received. By doing some of the math, even if we had the weights that we have taken in over the last 2 or 3 years, and if we're paying anything like we do for the CRTs, we increase the line item by $100,000 to help cover that. Should that actually take place when bids are put out in the next couple months. The other is, if you're fans of Ted Booker, writer for the South Bend Tribune, you probably read that we're in contract negotiations with Board and Waste Away to continue the curbside program. We're still in negotiations. This will be passed, our budget has to be passed before that will be finalized one way or the other. In order to cover the cost of a proposed increase to continue that program, that line item went up $300,000. Now, if the contract is not approved and the program does not continue, our fees are set after the first of the year. We would know by then. That money will not be spent, nor will money be collected for. At this point, though, we do not know, so that's why the budget shows that level of increase. It's basically those two line items due to the unknowns at this point. So, if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions from council for Mr. Shebish? Hearing none, we'll open the public hearing on bill number 5618. Does anyone wish to address the council in favor of this bill? Does anyone wish to address the council in opposition of this bill? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing on
And then the last thing I just wanted to
5618.
provide to
Clerk, will you please
the
read next
council
bill,
and
bill number
residents was
5718?
kind of a reminder, or maybe you don't know because we send out some amount of reports sometimes, but they're all very useful and hopefully everyone finds a use for them. But on page 12 is just the cover page of our monthly financial report that we do provide and that our department does send out on a monthly basis.
Mike Hammond, St. Joseph County Auditor with offices on the second floor. Just a few quick notes about our budget, which is still a work in progress, although we're very, very, very close. It looks as though the general fund budget will be $275,785. That is a balanced budget. That is to say, in the general fund, we are not going to be spending more than we're taking in the general fund. Also, we hit the GFOA recommendation of having reserves at about 16.6%. There is always room for improvement there, but we've gone a long way just to get there with our reserves. When you look at all funds, the budget, it would be $141,739,533. That's when you look at all the funds combined. You all try to do a couple of things this summer and into the fall. Two things which I'm sure are not going to be mutually exclusive. We wanted to present a budget which was fiscally responsible, which was going to be able to help us weather the fiscal cliff coming up. And at the same time, you want to do something for our employees and these department heads who are really struggling, some of whom are hemorrhaging employees. I think that's an appropriate term. A couple of departments were losing employees at the rate of about 33% a year. The turnover is 33% per year, which is just not tenable. It's not sustainable. And so you all came up with a couple of things. First, a 2% pay raise for all employees, 3% for the merit officers. You also decided to raise the floor for salaries up to $27,000. And again, no one is. I think we're not trying to delude ourselves that this is a silver bullet. That this is going to resolve all our concerns as it relates to paying our employees is what they deserve. But I think that this is a good first step, and hopefully, we'll be in a strong enough position next year to continue to remedy that situation. We are funding our health insurance. We believe we have a firm figure now on what our health insurance costs are, the entire program, and that's budgeted appropriately. We also looked at the health department and their very acute needs in terms of trying to help hold on to good quality employees. We agreed to free up $600,000 out of the reserves of about $1.6 million to help take care of some of these employees that are underpaid. In addition to that, you put into the 2019 budget a $200,000 set aside to take on the lead issue. In addition to that, you also approved it's in the budget tonight, there's a $200,000 appropriation for 2018. So those are some of the highlights of this budget, which is still a work in progress, but I want to commend you all for your hard work and threading that needle. Coming up with a budget which is fiscally responsible, but also trying to meet the needs of our different department heads.
More information, it'll be there, but we are going to do it kind of like I just talked about. These are the capital funds, and you can see that we're spending these capital funds down. These are general plus funds. You can see we're not spending any of those dollars down this year.
16.6. It'd be nice to be.
We'll be able to see that hopefully.
It's 16%.
Yeah, so we're right there,
Every
but
year we're trying to improve our process.
it'd be, I mean,
Honestly, I would love all the feedback.
years ago, this gentleman here, when he worked somewhere else, he told me that, the county ought to be out 20%.
Always says that to us, you give
And
us too
that
much,
seemed-
not enough,
and
and
I was like,
I don't know the
like,
level of
wow.
expertise.
That's for
I don't know how the heck we're gonna get there, but we're getting there. Thanks, you
that
guys' hard
in
work.
some of
So,
the reports, you
we
see
should be at
that
20%,
They're running
basically.
a high percentage of debt. Okay, and so you.
Yeah, it
look
sounds
at
good.
that, and
Yeah,
then
he doesn't-
just
he's
what
not
you
working
just
hard
showed
enough
with
on
us
it.
now is how
You
the
guys
funds
are gonna
are
have a stroke.
taken in, and then when they're available, then you spend out. So somehow we can make that a little bit clearer, would be very helpful, I know, at least for me, I hopefully for the
And early
public
on
as
in the
well.
process, too,
Yes.
and I know you guys are working hard, I mean, we're through as we're having these meetings, right? But I think I mentioned before, right, so if this department seems to be running a $9 million deficit, maybe that's balanced up somewhere else. But we don't know, it's really, so it's really tough, and I know we're crunched for time.
When it comes down to bonds, park bonds and all these others in bond, and the question I had the other time is, given our credit rating, is there a limit on how many bonds we can have out at this time based on our credit rating? From that standpoint,
Without hurting our credit.
Without hurting our credit
How many
rating.
bonds do you
How many, and I know it's not just the amount of bonds, not in terms of just number of bonds, but the total, the dollar amount of bonds. So, where are we, with that? And so now we can probably get back to.
Okay, go back.
Yeah,
All right. Okay, before we go back, I want to make sure council members financially were able to get your questions addressed as fast as possible.
Because that's one of the
Now we'll go back
reasons
to
that
the
led to this whole thing, because, you hear this bond's coming up, this bond's coming up, this bond's coming up, this bond's coming, and so the question comes up is there a limit? And what is that limit? How close are we to that limit? How much room do we have from that standpoint? And then that helps us to be able to prioritize what we want to do with that area in a better situation.
And another point, tag on to that question is, even though we may not be at it, there's a magical ceiling, but from another perspective, how much do we pass on to our citizens in terms of, what's reasonable? And so again, I think that's another question I have as well.
So all what's reasonable, with all that together, and so, and yeah, what's reasonable. So that will cover it.
So, I think that's a really good question. I asked that to the mayor too. Is like, what is that debt? What is that magic number? And you guys got it for the bond rating and all that. And we're going to get into that. Every household pretty much and businesses have workable debt, and that's what we look at for the city as well. The one thing that we got to do also is look at what that return on investment is. What are we getting for that we can't pay up front? We know CSO would bankrupt the city probably 3 times over. A quality of life like parks.
Thank you for your leadership.
Just me real quick. I took the parks bond. What we're paying, not regional cities and all that. If you divide it out by, just simply divide it out by 103,000 people, it's $485 a person. So I know I already got $485 worth of park with no new amenities, just the way it stands right now. So, we kind of got to look at it that way too. That's one thing that you guys really can't put a report together to explain to some people too. But I think we need to set some of those examples down the road, So just in this year, I know I got $485 worth out of the parks for me. So what would it mean to the zoo? Bad thing is regional with the zoo. But we kind of got to look at that. I know at one point Dr. Varner, God rest his soul, he is. That he put together like how much it's costing each individual. I think you guys did too on CSO. And then when you look at that, it kind of gets. I don't know if it's bearable, but at least it kind of knows where we stand per person to the city, and then we look at what's bearable. So I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Working debt to IR.
Yeah, you're right.
This is part of a reorganization of the mailroom.
especially with this debt
There were
conversation.
2 employees in the mailroom, 2 employees overseen by the county commissioners.
Right.
One of those employees left, retired,
Versus where
I think he was retired, and then the commissioners had the idea that instead of hiring another person, that they could divvy
Just
up
real
some of
quick,
those
one little short
responsibilities
comment.
between 2
So,
people.
that
So I
really,
believe that the
to the
person that
citizens,
has
it's
been in
up to
that
us and it's up to the
position
mayor. It really starts with
is
the mayor
getting
to say,
increased duties
this is
and
what
an
we're gonna,
increase in salary of
this is what we need
$2,000.
to tag on
And then
to
my
do whatever we
executive
want to do to our
secretary
city.
in my office is going
And it's
to
up to
assume
us whether we agree to
some of those duties as
go to
well.
that. So,
And so she will be
really,
getting
we're all
a
accountable, and it really starts with the mayor.
pay increase of
of
$2,000.
what is that too
So
high or too low?
overall, I'm assuming.
But we
But I
rely
think
on
there's
good
still-
experts like
Yeah,
that
I was
to
gonna
tell
say, I
us.
think there's probably some,
Yeah.
some.
So,
some
sorry.
subjective-
20s or something.
Here's where we get in
Yeah, so
trouble.
there's probably, there's a savings of probably $20,000 there.
So I'm gonna use the park, but I'm not
Asking
gonna
these
use
2 people to do a little bit more.
Okay.
Right, no.
Any questions from council, petitioners?
So, you know, first, thanks for the question. The one thing I would, you know, from a conversation point, one person
Does
is
anyone wish to speak in opposition?
XYZ is too high, another person is
Hearing on
So,
6018,
one of
there
the
is a motion on
good
the bill.
reasons why you
Do I hear a
have
second?
a credit
Motion
rating
to pass bill
is
number
to
6018 was made by Councilman Tanzarite. It was
kind of
seconded by
get an
Councilman
outside
Hess.
perspective
Council discussion on this
on a
bill.
global basis
Here,
of
Dr.
where
Clerk,
the
please
city
take
is
the roll.
going. Secondly, individuals like myself, as a municipal advisor, I have a fiduciary duty to make sure that the city has the capacity to issue debt. So it's coming up from 2 fronts. One, as your municipal advisor, I have a fiduciary duty to make sure that the bonds that we're putting into the marketplace make sense.
Show that bill number 6018 was passed by a vote of 9 to 0.
One thing I also
Clerk,
like to
please
say
read
is
the next
that
bill,
when
bill
we
number
talk about
6118.
before we even, before we even come to you, we're working on this months before. When I say working on months beforehand, we're going through analyzing what is the revenue capacity of the city? What does this potential debt look like? We said we estimated $4.2 million.
Mike Hammond, St.
What is
Joseph
the
County
debt
Auditor with
service
office on the
potential
second floor.
look like? What is
This is the
coverage?
companion piece to that salary increase. This is the person that had been working in the mailroom. That's her salary amendment, an increase of $2,000.
That is something going to be struggling to keep this, or if a certain taxpayer got to leave, what does that mean? So we also go through a stress test. We work with the controller's office, the deputy controller, as it relates to what are the pros and cons, what are your capacity. I put this up and we have this up.
Motion to pass bill number 6118 is
From
made
a
by
GO
Councilman
standpoint,
seconded by
and I think this
Councilman Hess.
is very key,
Any further
is
comment?
that you're at a double
Councilman
whammy
on this bill?
from a GO standpoint. And
Hearing
what
none,
that
clerk,
says
please take
for
the roll.
standing employers, the globally recognized credit agencies, is that double A's obligation rated double A differs from the highest rated obligations only to a small degree. The obligor's capacity to meet the financial commitments on the obligation is zero. So when we go through the ratings
All financial
process,
issues
first and foremost, we go through.
heard and discussed at our August 28th.
The rating agency also goes through their
Is
process.
there anyone who wishes to speak in
The
favor of
capacity
any
of the city,
financial
the
issue
debt
on tonight's
outstanding,
agenda?
per capita, everything that's going
Is
on.
there anyone who
We
wishes
need
to speak in opposition to any financial issues on tonight's agenda?
Yes, sir.
Is the reason why any
Public
of
comment
this
is not
has
closed.
a double A
Please
because
read
it's
bill
size
number
plus this, or
5918.
is it more than that? Because why are they
Set up
going
another
up?
meeting. Yeah, there's various capacities and I
We
don't
have a motion on bill number 5918.
the city of Indianapolis.
Do I hear a second?
Have been at double A. Only thing I can say.
Well, let me rephrase
Motion to
that.
pass bill number
Is there
5918 was made
something,
by Councilman Miller.
is it
and
worth
seconded by
us
Councilman
in
Lyle.
South
Any
Bend
further comments from the council member
continue
on
with this process?
5918?
Or do we need to put something in place to
Hearing none, clerk, will you
get
please take the roll?
double A? I mean, to the A.
To get to a triple A. There are some things that are within your control, and there are other things that just not in your control. There are 2 cities in the state of Indiana that is at triple A.
Yeah.
Fishers and Guam.
Record show that bill number
From
5918 was
Standard,
passed
for
by a
Standard
vote of
and Poor's.
9-0.
Standard and Poor's triple A, Standard rating agency. There are 2 cities. So there are things that you can't control, and there are other things that's out of your control. What I will say is that, and we talked about this before on the last rating, is that we always like to go through the write-up. after we get the rating, just to see what are the opportunity areas that may be within control of the city. And there's some things that during the state of Indiana, you cannot perform.
Good evening. Good evening. Bill Shalio, Economic Development, offices on the 11th floor. Here today for you for the declaratory resolution for SF Motors. SF Motors looking to repurpose and reuse the former AM General property out of McKinley Avenue. This is the first of the two steps in the declaratory process. Here is the tax abatement would be for personal property tax only. It's proposed as a 7-year tax abatement with a total estimated savings with $20 million of investment of approximately $863,000. I would note, as we've discussed before, the only party that really is affected by this tax abatement is the St. Joseph County Redevelopment Commission. This property sits within an economic development area. All personal property tax as well as real property tax collected off this property goes to the Redevelopment Commission as increment. So this abatement really is only affecting the increment generation for the Redevelopment Commission during a 7-year period of time. If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Any questions from council?
Yeah, no problem. I can do it.
Sure. They take into account median household income, median home value, all that stuff.
They take into your cash flow, your projected cash balances.
Yeah, it is my anticipation that with your favorable approval tonight, we will have, in addition to a confirming resolution at your committee meeting later this month, whatever the date is, we would also have the development agreement. But I'm certainly happy to recirculate that amongst the members. Any comments, I'd be happy to have those. We'd like to get that back so that we can have a final version, if you will, to present to your committee. The goal would then be at the same night of the confirming to do the development agreement approval, also having it been through the commissioners as well as the redevelopment commission before it comes to you for final approval. So I would certainly be happy to circulate that tomorrow morning.
Just to go through a process first and say, when I know I'm going in front of a credit rating agency, and when I know I'm going to the marketplace, when we structure a debt,
I've got those notes. We can certainly take a look at those, but again, I will recirculate that development agreement amongst the members. If there's any things they would like to see changed or addressed, we can certainly do that between now and 2 weeks.
Any other questions for Mr. Shalio from council?
Yes.
But taking on those bonds, paying off those bonds, doing good projects that improve your city, bequeaths better bond rating and people wanting to invest in those bonds within the city of South Bend.
When I say smart debt, one thing that's important, I say this, if you go to this bullet point here, that's a positive, great, is that 68% of the debt is scheduled to be retired. Oh, sorry, smart debt.
Smart borrowing for some of smart debt.
68% of your debt is being retired in 2 years. Excellent. I think that's excellent. As far as like the smart debt issue, is that you're also looking at from a structural standpoint that the terms of debt coming out so long. Issuing too much is not good.
Unfinished business.
The right amount in the right years, and when those opportunity projects come up, you do it right.
So from a municipal standpoint, 10 years, so that is 10 years is nothing. If it gets into the 15 to 20, 25 years, then you see a challenge with that.
Yeah, that's unique. So, I mean, the S&P rating is for all U.S. municipal.
My name is Andre Stoner, 628 Cushing Street. I'm the neighborhood networker for the Near Northwest neighborhood. The agenda moves pretty fast, and so I probably was supposed to speak earlier. I wanted to speak to the budget related to the health department. Is it okay if I take a moment? Thank you. I want to say we've obviously Census Tract 6 is in our neighborhood, and so we've been working very hard on the issue of lead contamination. We have 2 of our community outreach team, community health workers who are here, who are going door to door, making home visits, working with families who are impacted by the problem of lead poisoning. And We've been partnering, working with a number of groups across the city, and we're really pleased that in the last number of months, some really significant changes in leadership have occurred at the health department, and we feel like we really have partners that are strategizing with us, working with us, engaging with us, convening players, and having really important forward-looking conversations about how we address this problem together, and who are really taking leadership. And I'm really pleased with that. And then, of course, the question is funding. And so I was at a budget hearing a couple weeks ago, and it sounded like there was no money for no additional money. And so I'm very pleased to hear and to learn that there's $200,000 this year and $200,000 next year of new money to address this issue. That's a really significant step, I think. It was a very modest step. Our public health funding in St. Joe County is, according to my information, number 57 out of 92 counties, and the state of Indiana is 36 out of 50 states. So we're somewhere at the bottom, middle of the bottom of the middle of the bottom. And this is not just about lead, but it's also about infant mortality, it's about obesity, it's about suicide, it's about a whole host of public health issues that impact our families and our neighborhoods. So I just want to say thank you very much, really glad for the increased funding, the additional $400,000 of additional money, and but also just want to say that it seems like a very modest step, and we certainly hope there will be further, more ambitious kind of steps that are taken in the next years, next months and years. Thank you.
Not only your existing debt service, but the projected debt service that you go through. But I would, once again, I go back to the point of, before we even get to the formal period test, we go through the process beforehand. With the city to say, we're good on this debt, but at least formally put some in the report, and the revenue standpoint that says, you have some existing debt, there's some new debt, the revenue coming in, and they put together a formal report. So they get a comfort level